Hello, 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 hello. Microphone is on.
Wait, this. Black screen. Oh.
Hello, hello. Okay. Microphone is on.
This.
Okay, so it's actually coming through.
Black screen.
Hello, okay. Microphone is on.
This.
Okay, so it's actually coming through. Hello, okay. Microphone is on. Okay, so it's actually coming through. Okay. I'm going to switch the microphone off now. Okay, testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing, 1, 2. Okay, cool.
I'll change the screen and talk so that I can check. That's I'm changing screen now.
Changing screen now. Oh, changing screen now.
Changing screen now.
Changing screen now. Oh, changing screen now.
Okay, so it is synced.
Okay.
As I was concerned that your voice wasn't synced with the, so it does change at the correct time.
Okay, so I'm going to switch off the microphone again. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Brendan here from Infiniti Investment Solutions, and we're going to get started in 5 minutes. We're just waiting for a few other people to join. I think it's going to be a relatively quiet webinar this evening. I think only about 10 or so people registered, but I think it'll be really, really highly valuable information that I'm sharing with you guys. So I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. So if you just be patient, we'll get started at 7 o'clock sharp. In the meantime, for those of you online already, if you could type in a little hello in the chat box on the right hand side so that I know you're there and that you can hear me, that would be fantastic. Then if you have any questions, then you can just type them in the chat box as we go through the presentation tonight. Hello, Hanro. Nice to see you here. So we're just waiting for a few more people to join, see if everyone's on time, and then we'll get started. Can you hear me clearly, Hanro? Great stuff. Thank you. Okay, let's give it 2 more minutes. Let's see. Hello, everybody. For those listening, it's Brendan here from Infiniti Investment Solutions, and we're about to get started in a presentation where I'll share with you exactly how we think about buying property in the US, how we go about it, and if you're interested in partnering with us in projects, you'll see how we structure deals so that everybody benefits. And then if you like it, you can always partner with us in a project. So I think in the interest of time, thank you for everybody that was punctual tonight. Let's get started. So Infiniti Investment Solutions was founded by me and two other partners on a very simple premise, which is we believe that in order to live free, that smart investors must diversify into US dollar denominated assets for wealth preservation, dollar income, and growth. And this is very much a belief system for me personally. And because I believe that if this resonates with enough other people, then hopefully I can help them diversify out of just being in rands and into a first world currency that, the US dollar, which is the reserve currency of trade for the world, which means it's got a lot of stability. And in doing that, you can attain your global financial freedom. And we'll talk about that a little bit tonight as well. So who are the people involved in Infiniti Investment Solutions? It's myself, Brendan Brown, Kevin Harris, my partner, and Jared Coleman, our third partner. And each of us plays a slightly different role in the company. Brendan being, I did probably around $140, $150 million worth of transactions in the USA from 2012 to 2015 with another company that I founded. This was in partnership with some other people. And then I exited that company in 2015 and then partnered with Kevin and Jared to put Infiniti Investment Solutions together and then help other people invest in really good quality projects in the USA that can provide safety and security going forward in terms of a plan B, dollar-based income, et cetera, et cetera. What each one of us brings to the table is, I've done a lot of transactions in the USA, so I understand the projects, how to vet the partners, how to vet the projects, how to do the numbers, and how to do the structuring. Then Kevin brings a hell of a lot of insight. He built the biggest personal development system in South Africa, and he has over 70,000 people in that network, and very, very successful in his own right. And he was actually my first investor partner in my previous company. So he saw the track record and the history that I built over there and the results. Very important, the actual results that he saw. And out of those results, he said, look, we really need to take this company to the next level. And then there's Jared Coleman, who has developed over 9,000 single-family homes and apartments in Sandton, Bedford View, Boksburg, all up in Joburg. And he brings a hell of a lot of development knowledge and insight into the team. So as a team, we're very good at analyzing investments, sorting out the logistics, and leveraging relationships in order to create sustainability for the future. So it's a very, very powerful team, and I'm very proud to be a part of it. In terms of why we're investing in the USA, is I've found it to be really, really great working within the rule of law in the US. It is a very litigious society. And here in South Africa, we face some very dire threats to our rule of law, specifically around property ownership rights. And that very much is a case of if the government starts taking our land and taking our property, it means we don't really have safety in the rule of law protecting our property rights. And whereas in the US, you know that what you own is what you own, and your title deed is strong, and nobody's going to challenge that if you do own it. So the rule of law is very, very important to me. I also like, being able to evict my tenants quickly if they are not paying. So we only buy projects in places that are not rent controlled, in places where it only takes 4 to 6 weeks to evict a tenant. So, for example, if you're buying in Tennessee or in Atlanta or in Florida, you can get an eviction order, and within 6 weeks, that person is out on the street. Literally, the sheriff of the court will arrive and put that person out on the street with what's called a put-out crew. So the people arrive, they physically take the tenant out of the property and put them out on the street corner with all of their stuff and tell them to leave. So I like having laws that protect my landlord rights in the USA and allow me to evict tenants that are not paying very, very quickly, because this minimizes my risk. Whereas if you compare that to South Africa, if a bad tenant knows his rights in terms of the PI Act, it is very, very difficult to get them out. And if they're not paying you, it's hard. And oftentimes people do crazy things. And at the end of the day, the law protects the tenant more than it protects the landlord. So from that perspective, I really like the USA because we're protected there. There's also a glass ceiling. If you're trying to invest on your own in South Africa, you can only go so as far as your affordability will allow you to go. For those couple of people just joining, if you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat box, and I will then answer them as I'm going along. So we're all well aware of the economic and political uncertainty in South Africa. I'm not going to go into too much detail around that. I'm still invested in South Africa. I still love this place. I still live here. What's really nice about investing in the USA and earning dollars and living in South Africa and spending rands is it's kind of fun every time my lifestyle goes up from the rand sliding. So my top marketing executive happens to be the head of our country. But because of the economic and political uncertainty, we must, as responsible investors, diversify to minimize our risk. So on a global, if you're looking at your global wealth and you're seeing it is being decimated because of the economic and political uncertainty in South Africa, then you must take action and make a plan. And in order to make that plan, I've found, in my personal opinion, is that USA is a very investment progressive place to be. They're welcoming, that we get along in terms of culture, and I found very, very good quality partners on that side that I've got a good history with to deliver results for my investors. And at the end of the day, the USA is still the reserve currency. So if you're buying something in Brazil and you're in Spain, you're probably still transacting in US dollars, because about 65 to 70% of the world's trade flows through the US dollar. And as a result of that, it's an extremely stable currency. So as a responsible investor, I want to be in a stable currency with stable assets that are underpinned by the rule of law, with good quality partners that I know can produce the returns on a consistent basis. So that's what I look for and why I believe in the USA. And then there's another reason why the USA. And that is really cash flow. So if you had to look at some basic numbers, and I'm using these numbers as an indicative, I've got a deal right now in the USA that we're busy closing on. We'll be closed on it in the next 2 weeks, and the price happens to be $4 million. So if we're putting down a $1 million deposit, that's about a 75% loan to value. And we're borrowing $3 million with a mortgage of 3.65%. Now remember, everything that I try and do in property is about minimizing risk. So in South Africa, if I had to fix my interest rate, I'd probably be looking at about 12 or 13%, thereabouts. In the US, this 3.65%, I'm able to fix that rate right now for 5 years. So it doesn't matter what the property does or what the interest rates do. I know what my risk is because it's fixed at 3.65%. That's phenomenal. And what it does is, because of the differential between the interest rate at 3.65% and the cash flow, which is currently at 6%, we're able to produce a $50,000 per year positive cash flow in the project that we can then pay out to our investors. So that means if you look at the left-hand side of the screen there, we've got a 5% cash on cash from day one. We can pay that out to investors, and we pay out every quarter immediately on the cash that we've actually invested. So if you invested $100,000, you get $5,000 a year from that project. If you compare that to a South African property, let's say you bought the same property or similar price points 4 million rand price with a 1 million deposit and you got a mortgage at 10.5%, that means you're going to have zero cash flow. Generally, with about a 7 to 8% cap rate or a 7 to 8% net yield, you're going to produce no cash flow, and you're going to just hope and pray that the tenant pays on time so that you're not running negative cash flow on that particular project. And this is my big why. This is why I love buying good cash flowing assets in the USA, because the low interest rate allows me to get positive cash flow very, very quickly. In fact, instantaneously. And my US dollar cash flow is what's creating my global financial freedom. That's why I'm able to travel with my family like I did last year in the USA for 5 weeks and not have to rock up at work every day. It's why I'm able to live in Cape Town by choice. And I've looked at all over the world. I've traveled to, I don't know, about 17 different countries or something like that. And the end of the day is I love living in Cape Town. But what enables me to live here like a really fantastic lifestyle is I've got US dollar cash flow. And that's my global financial freedom. I'm not looking at what kind of passports I have. I'm not looking at any of that type of stuff. I know if I've got $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, whatever the number is, that I'm globally financially free. And that's what's important to me. If I can help enough other people get the same thing, then I think I've done very, very well in my life. And at the end of the day, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to be able to buy more property in the USA. But Brendan on his own can't buy enough property over there with only my capital and my balance sheet. I've got to look at it from a perspective and say, okay, if I've got good quality partners and I want to keep them producing for me and I want to keep buying from them and I want to keep going forward, I've got to help other people do this, because our power is in the collective buying power of everybody together. So Zig Ziglar said it best. You can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. And if what they want is the same thing that I want, which is global financial freedom, I use property as my vehicle to get that. But if that's what people want, then we can both help each other do it together. And I think that's where it comes to my purpose, is to help other people do exactly the same thing. So I'd like to know, what's your financial freedom number? So take a moment to think about that. You don't need to post it up anywhere. In fact, maybe we'll do a little poll here so that it's hidden. And so what's your financial freedom income number in dollars? Is it $5,000, $10,000? Like, what could you replace your lifestyle anywhere in the world? Let's see what anybody has to say. Check on the right-hand side there and just check the box and see what it is. So we've got a couple of votes coming through. So while you're busy with that, is if I can help enough other people achieve their financial freedom income number, and in so doing, buy good quality projects with good quality people, then we've all benefited. And that's really what it comes down to. So how I'm able to do that so far is we've done about $70 million of projects in Infiniti in the last 18 months. And if you have a look at on the left-hand side there, we're in the ground on this project right now. We are building 263 multifamily units. That's basically a block of flats, an apartment complex. So it's one title deed with 263 units. It's got 8,000 square feet, which is about 800 square meters of retail space on the bottom floor with a restaurant. And we're able to produce about a 22% internal rate of return to investors on that particular project. And we're in the ground right now. We raised $8.3 million to be able to do that deal. And we partnered with a US developer on that side, who's now busy doing that development for us. Then Ocean on Siesta Key. That is a luxury apartment complex that we are building for resale. So we're building apartments over there that we're going to be selling for between $3.8 and $4.5 million. and it's a 2-year project, and we're looking to exit with about a 90% internal rate of return. And then Overlook on Sugarloaf, that's an office building that's about 82% let at the moment, and we helped an investor buy that. And it's actually in Atlanta, right down the road from our offices there in Atlanta. So thank you for everybody for participating in the poll. Very, very insightful to see what people think of in terms of what's their financial freedom number, which I hope I can help you achieve. So we've been quite busy. We've now got a new project on the go that's in the medical space that I'll talk about in a few minutes. Then if we look at our past performance, this is what I've done personally in my previous company, where I was involved on the investment committee in each one of these deals, and I also personally put money into each one of these deals, and they all performed exactly as planned, and in fact slightly better. So we bought some land which we developed in Atlanta. We developed these single family homes. Then we bought a medical office suite that was 7 medical offices that we bought in one transaction for $16.2 million, and we produced an 18% internal rate of return. But most importantly, we had a cash on cash, which is your cash flow number, of over 10% per year being paid out to investors, and it's still being paid out to this day. Medical 2, that had an 11.2% cash on cash, and that was a $12.8 million acquisition. Medical 3 had a 9% cash on cash and a $13.1 million acquisition. So to date, between the entire team, we've done over $210 million of transactions in the USA, and we've learned a hell of a lot, mostly of what not to do. So let's talk about exit planning. What's the purpose of us buying these projects, and how long do we hold them? Generally, we hold them for about 5 years. I just want to have a sip of water here. So we look to exit some point around the 3 to 5 year mark. Generally, it's closer to the 5 year mark. We want to roll in the profits for tax efficiency. So what's really nice about the US is you can use what's called a 1031 exchange. And we do not give any tax advice. I'm just sharing with you what we're actively doing. So what we do is when we sell a project, if we've got a capital gain, we don't touch the capital gain. We just take that and we earmark it for another project, another real estate investment within 6 months. And then that money flows to that new real estate investment. And as long as we haven't touched that money, we defer the capital gain, and we can keep doing it indefinitely. We also use depreciation very, very effectively to be able to, while we're running the project, run the project at almost a loss, so that on the books we're producing cash flow, but because of depreciation it's running at zero or a loss, which means our cash flow is free of tax. So we use those to be very, very tax efficient. At some point in the future, if we've got a big enough project portfolio, we could look to exit via becoming a REIT or selling to a REIT or a hedge fund. So at the end of the day, I think the biggest question is, how do you get paid as an investor? So it's very, very simple. We try and create what's called the waterfall, how everybody gets paid, so that it's fair and equitable. And where the risk lies with the people that are taking the risk, and where the incentives are aligned in the project to produce the returns that we say we're going to produce. And if we don't produce them, well, then we don't really deserve to get paid. So it's very much a mindset, as well as we want to create investments where everybody wins, and where if it doesn't go according to plan, because if you've ever been in real estate, things sometimes don't go according to plan. And I've got some stories to share with everybody about that. In $210 million, I've definitely had a few stories where they didn't go according to plan. But what we did is we just kept going and kept pushing and kept going and kept pushing until we managed to save the project, or at least get investors' money out without losing any money. So from that perspective, we've helped in, over my entire history, about 400 people invest overseas. So and the company I was a part of actually helped about 2,500 people invest overseas. But me personally, I was only involved in about 400. So I'm only giving you the people that I actually personally helped. And in doing that, we solved everything. And I mean, I've seen crazy things, tenants dying and then having to sort that out, people going bankrupt and not paying their rent, and we battled to get them out. We've had investors' houses burned down. So, I want to tell the bad stories and the good stories because I want people to be aware that when investing overseas, it's very important to know that things do go wrong. And when they do go wrong, can you come and see me physically in my office here in Cape Town? Yes, you can. Or in Joburg. Jared's up in Joburg. He's got a big business over there where he does property development right now. It's called Limestone. You can go check it out. So if you want to come and physically see us, we're here. We're not flying in for a weekend seminar to present a great investment or whatever and then disappearing, doing a nice little show, song and dance at a hotel and then disappearing the next day. I'm physically here and you can come and see me and have a chat. And sometimes the hard conversations are always better to have in person than not, which is why we fly to the USA every 3 months, because I'm looking at new projects. Have the hard conversations in person because you can't have them via Skype and Zoom and GoToMeeting and all the rest of those things. So what we do is we buy the project together at cost. Then the first 6% gets paid to whoever put physical cash in the project, pro rata to their cash amount. So if you were a part of a project where we had to put in $1 million and you put in 100,000, that means you would own 10% of that project. So you would get pro rata to your amount of money put in the first 6%. That's called a preferred return. Thereafter, so if there's any money left over after that 6% is paid, then Infiniti gets paid. So we have what's called a sponsor in the USA. They've got a very specific role where they bring the deal, they manage the debt, and they manage the project going forward. So we share 50-50 of that profit that's left over with the investors who get 50%. And then Infiniti and the USA partner get the other 50%, which is then split again between us on whatever ratio is equitable for the amount of work that they're doing. So if Infiniti is doing most of the work, then we get most of that 50%. If the sponsor is doing most of the work, then they would get most of that 50%. So to give you a view of what that looks like is we buy it in what's called a limited liability company in the USA, very much like a trust in South Africa. That owns the property and that collects all the rental income, pays all the expenses. And then any cash flow or profit after the sale is then paid out to the investors first, 6%. And if the USA sponsor or Infiniti has put their own money in the deal, very often we do, in fact, in every deal so far, we put our own money in, then we get paid out 6% on our money as well. It's treated the same as the investor's money. And then anything that's left over after that 6% pref on the equity that's been put into the project, that's split 50% to the investors and then 50% to Infiniti and the USA partner. And usually we would then split it 50-50 as well, 25% to the sponsor and 25% to Infiniti. And for that, the sponsor is signing for the debt, which is extremely important because us as investors, especially foreign investors, if we land there in the USA and think we can get interest rates at 3.65% with a loan to value of 75%, we are dreaming. I've been doing business there for 6 years now. I have a very good credit history over there. I pay my taxes over there. I still can't buy properties and get it at 3.65%. Generally, I'm going to get it at 5.5% to 6% if I try and buy properties on my own. So the sponsor brings a hell of a lot of value in signing for the debt. It also means that we're, from that perspective on the project side, non-recourse. So the bank will only attack the sponsor for anything related to the debt that goes wrong. So we are ring-fenced away from the debt. It's a risk minimization tool as well. So it increases our returns and it minimizes our risk. That's the way we like to do things. So if anybody doesn't understand this, please just post a question in the chat box and I'll be happy to answer it. So that's how we get paid. And that's how Infiniti likes to get paid, is on performance. So that if it doesn't work, if we only get 6% return, then the investor gets everything. If we get 8%, then the investor would get 6% plus 50% of the 2. So that means he gets 7%, and then Infiniti and the sponsor would get 1%, which we then split in half, 0.5% and 0.5%. If the total return was, let's say, 20%, then the first 6% would go to the investors. The balance, the 14%, would then be split in half. 7% would go to the investors, giving them a total of 6 plus 7, which is 13%. And then Infiniti and the sponsor would split the other 7%, which means we'd get a 3.5% and 3.5%, what we call a promote in the project. And that's our profit after the preferred return. And that's how everybody gets paid. Nice and fair. So how can I help you get to your global financial freedom number? If it's $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, that's what I want to do. So over the next 2, 3, 5 years, whatever it takes, we work together to build a portfolio together where you've partnered in enough projects to give you your global financial freedom number. And if I can help you do that, I think I've done a great thing in this world, because the more people I can help become globally financially free, the more I'm fulfilling my own personal purpose. And the way to do that I found is through partnership. It's the only method that people equals profits in property. I know that's a lot of P's over there, but I heard that from one of my mentors a couple of years ago, and it's so true. Is if I try and manage and do everything on my own, I simply hit the glass ceiling where I can't do it all on my own. But if I have good quality projects that are producing cash flow, and everything's built on results, and we work with great people, and just out of interest sake, our sponsors on the USA side have over $400 million in real estate assets under management right now. And we've got a 23-year relationship with these people in other businesses. So they've paid us on time for the last 23 years in a different business, not property, and we get the benefit of partnering with them in the real estate that they're buying. And these projects land on their table because of their reputation of being very good at what they do. So these are all off-market deals. This is not the stuff generally that you can buy directly online. So we really try and bring value to the transaction through our partners that are on the ground. And at the end of the day, the investment is only as good as the team on the ground managing the project. Finding the quality partners is what we actually specialize in. 20% of the work is finding the good quality projects. You can find great quality deals all around the world. But 80% of the work is really the diligent, disciplined management through the holding period of the investment. That's what makes the returns actually happen. That's what makes the magic happen. It's the detail orientation. It's consistently communicating. It's having results. That's what it's about. And the way we try and design deals is to ensure that those results are there, sustainable. And in order to do that, I make sure I'm buying assets that allow us to beat the averages easily. So what do we buy? On the wealth creation side, we're doing developments that are in the multifamily space. We've also done student accommodation. We've done industrial flex space. We've done single family homes. We've done a hell of a lot of development in the USA. And there, the internal rate of return is generally much higher. So the growth on your money is very, very high, but you're not really getting cash flow. Tonight's presentation is specifically around cash flow, because your cash flow, your income, is what buys you your global financial freedom, not necessarily the growth on your money. The growth on your money is what makes you rich. But what buys you financial freedom, and they're two different things, is cash flow. So on the wealth preservation side, we buy cash flowing assets with double net or triple net leases. I'm using this for Xenius project here as a typical example. We like buying in medical and multifamily because they're the top two most economically resilient real estate sectors in the market in the USA. And the USA is the biggest real estate market in the world with, I can't remember the exact number, something like $3 trillion. Don't quote me on that, but I'll have to look it up another time. But it is the biggest real estate market in the world. And in terms of the two most resilient sectors of that market, it's medical and multifamily. And why? Simply because apartment complexes on the multifamily side, everybody needs a place to live. There's a huge movement of millennials moving into the urban centers. There's a huge movement of baby boomers that are moving out of single family homes and into lifestyle complexes that serve their needs, where they don't have massive gardens that they have to look after, where they've got amenities packages on site, where they've got people that can sometimes help them. So assisted living and memory care and that type of stuff is very, very, very big in the USA right now. And we are actively buying medical-related offices, medical-related real estate all the time, and multifamily, because in the US we have over 10,000 people turning 65 every single day. That means we've got a huge demand for medical infrastructure going forward. And from the global financial crisis, there was very little investment in new medical real estate. And only in the last 2 years has it really been coming online. Quite fast, actually. So there's been a lot of new developments in the medical space, but still not even close to enough to meet the demand of the baby boomers that are, one, turning 65 every single day, two, living longer and longer, and three, have the money to invest in healthcare services. Which means we always have tenants that pay their rent on time. Doctors don't move. They build a practice around their community. The community knows where they are, and generally they're so busy that they don't think about moving. It's expensive to move. Sometimes there's a license related to that particular building, so it's very hard for the doctor to move. So when we're looking at Fresenius Medical Care, for example, it's a kidney dialysis center. Fresenius's credit rating is better than South Africa's at the moment. They are on a triple B minus credit rating. They're about a $27 billion company. They've got over 3,000 dialysis centers around the world, and they are a top-notch company. And that's our lease. That's our tenant that's going to be paying us every single month on time. And because it's a double net lease, it means we don't even have to think about the management of or the maintenance of that property. We've got to paint the lines on the parking lot, and we've got to do the roof once every 25 years, roughly. So it means we've got very little responsibility from the landlord's perspective in that particular thing, which is why it's wealth preservation. There's nothing we can do to really add value to that because it's already fully let. Whereas if you're looking at the wealth creation side, that's where we want to buy a building that's maybe half let and needs a bit of a facelift and needs a value play where we can unlock extra returns from the project. That's on the wealth creation side. On the wealth preservation side, we just want consistent income from a great tenant that's going to be paying us on time without us having to think about it for a very, very long time. So if you want to take it further, that's really what I wanted to share with everyone tonight is in order to really understand this stuff, I need to sit with you in a one-on-one for about 1 to 2 hours to explain to you the structure, the tax planning situation. I'm not a tax advisor, so I'll just give you what we're doing, and you can go and have that vetted by other people. And we provide a full turnkey solution where we've got accountants on the other side in the USA. We've got an attorney over there that represents our clients. We open bank accounts for you in the name of your LLC to invest and partner with us in the projects. And your money is never touched by us. It's always touched by the attorneys who manage the payments. So when a project receives its money, it's going from the attorney's account to the closing account, which is like our conveyancing attorney. And then we close on the project. We take transfer, we take ownership of it. And what's great about working in the USA is you can't hide the stuff. You can go onto the public domain, which is usually, let's say we bought it in the state of Georgia. You can go onto the Georgia State Registry Services and go and look up that property's details to see who owns it online for free. You don't have to have an account with a service like Windeed or with anything like that. You can just go online and type in the property's details and be able to look it up, quickly and easily for free. So there's no rubbish or lies or anything, because you can get caught out so quickly in the USA because everything's in the public domain. So if you'd like to take it further, you've got to have at least $100,000 available in cash to invest. You've got to be a like-minded individual. We don't take everybody. Just because you've got money doesn't mean I want to partner with you. You've got to have the right mindset to be able to partner with us. And if you do want to come with us on a trip to go out and vet our partners and vet the actual projects with us, you're welcome to do that. We go out once every 3 months. I've got my next trip to the USA is on the 18th of June, and I'll be there for a week with Kevin and Jared. We're going to be looking at the Fresenius project we just bought. We're going to be looking at a couple of other medical buildings. We're going to go look at some apartment complexes in Tampa. We're going to look at some apartment complexes in Atlanta. So we've got quite a trip planned, and if anybody wants to join us on that trip, you're welcome to. You just pay your own costs, your flights and accommodation, and we sync them up so that we're staying in the same hotels and we're on the same flights, and we travel together. And you can meet everybody that we work with over there in person and get a feel for it yourself. So if you want to do that, and you know, cost generally, my trips to the US cost anywhere between 30 and 50,000 Rand, depending on how long I'm going for and what I can get my ticket prices for. And that's really it. So if you want to come with and check it out, you're welcome. But you must be a like-minded individual that sees the bigger picture and wants to develop this property portfolio with us together. And then you've got to join the Infiniti Investment Club. How you do that is you partner in a project, and then you've got lifetime membership to the Infiniti Investment Club. And in order to take part in that, if you do want to find out more and have a one-on-one chat with me and go through a project and actually analyze it in detail and see exactly how everything works, then please just WhatsApp me on 082 33 00 570, and we can take it from there and onwards towards global financial freedom. So thank you very much for coming online tonight. I'm going to show you the project that we currently have live right now. Let me just pull it up over here. Where'd it go now? Fresenius. So we've verbally fully raised on this particular project. But the way it works is investors, it's a first come, first serve. Whoever moves their money to the escrow account first gets their slot locked in at first, so that it's completely fair for everybody. And I think at the moment, there's only about $100,000 that's not actually physically in the account on this particular project. Let's zoom out here a little bit. So that's the Fresenius Medical Care project. We go have a look here. Its total project value is $4 million. Our minimum investment is $100,000. We're putting down $1 million as a deposit on this particular property, and we are loaning $3 million from the bank at 3.65%, which means this project will produce about a 15% internal rate of return over 5 years, but it will cash flow at about 5% in the first year, about 6% in the second year in terms of a cash-on-cash return. It's situated in South Carolina in a town called Columbia. It's got, where's the number of beds here? Just having a look here. It's got 74 licensed dialysis control centers in terms of the number of beds that they use to service clients. And here's what's amazing about dialysis centers is unfortunately kidney disease is rife across the USA because of the nature of their diet and a whole bunch of other things. And at the end of the day, is you do not miss a dialysis session because you will die. It's not like a dentist appointment. If you miss your dentist appointment, you just go next week. When you miss a dialysis appointment, you die. So they will always have clients, and the clients always pay on time. They will rather not pay their rent than miss their dialysis and not pay for that. So we don't need to worry about Obamacare or about the new Trump plan or anything like that. People will always pay for their dialysis. And Fresenius is one of the top two. In the US, there's Fresenius and DaVita. Fresenius has a market cap of 27.3 billion as of last year. They're in the Fortune 300 list. They were founded in 1912, so they've been going for over 100 years. They're a global company. You can't get a better tenant rating than this. It's kind of like having, like Discovery or F&B renting from you. They will always pay on time, and we've got a 15-year lease, which 12 years is left on the lease at the moment. Somebody says they can't see that slide, so let me just see why is it not showing you. I'm going to stop sharing and then restart it. So let's restart. Let's just be patient for a second. Okay, we should be up and running again. So we've got the Fresenius Medical Care Center. It's $4 million acquisition. Minimum investment is $100,000. We've got a 15-year double net lease, 13 years remaining on the lease. We've got 2% annual base rent escalation, so 2% per year it's going up every year, which is really unusual in the USA. Oftentimes, because inflation is very low in the US, we battle to get corporate leases where there are escalations built into it. And if there are escalations, sometimes they can be at the 5-year and 10-year renewal time periods, or they can be indexed to inflation. So in this case, we've got a fixed 2% per year annual base rent escalation. This building was built in 2014. So it's basically brand new. So we've got no deferred maintenance issues at all. We have had an independent third-party building inspector go out and check it out, and he's given us a full list of items that require repairs on the property, and we've sent that through. The tenant is taking care of all of it because that's their responsibility to take care of it in terms of the lease. So it's very much headache-free for us, and that's what I like buying. I like buying safety, safety, safety. When I'm investing on the other side of the world with my own money, I like buying safety and I like buying income. And this particular project ticks both of those because of the nature of the tenant, because of the type of the building, because of the sector of the market, being in medical, and because it's actually cash flowing right now. And Fresenius Medical Care happens to be the leading provider of products and services for people with chronic kidney failure. So they were formed in 1996 following the merger of the dialysis business of Fresenius AG and US dialysis services provider National Medical Care. So they've been going since 1912, but from 1996 they became much, much, much bigger. They're present in more than 120 countries around the world. They care for over 294,000 patients. So they really are a very, very big tenant. And that's what we look for in terms of quality of the tenant and knowing that we're going to get paid our rent on time every single month. In terms of the project returns, let me see if I can just zoom this in a little bit. Okay. So if you have a look at our cash on cash return there, that is the cash flow before taxes. We're looking at in the first year about 4.7%. So that's on our actual equity investment amount. So if you were putting in $100,000, you would get about $4,760 paid to your account each year. In 2018, because of the escalations, we're looking at about 5.2 and about 5.7 in 2019, right across to 2022, about 7.19% in terms of cash on cash. And if you equate that to an internal rate of return, we're looking at a growth on your money. So this is how fast your money is growing. And in US terms, 15% growth over 5 years compounded per year is very, very good. If you're putting your money in the bank, you're going to get a 0.25% interest if you're lucky. If it's over $100,000, for example. I've seen ads like that on the tube stations and stuff. So because there's no inflation, there's effectively no real interest rates to pay out to anybody, and that's why we're getting such low interest rates in terms of the lending that we're able to get on these particular projects. So you're looking at about a 15% growth on your money, taking into account the sale and the cash flow and all of the expenses. But in terms of an actual cash flow, the cash on cash, looking at about 5% a year, growing from the escalations each year. And that's the project returns. So if you're looking at investing alongside us in this particular project, I think I've only got about $100,000 left of this one where it's been verbally committed, but nobody's actually moved their money yet. So if you are interested, just send me a WhatsApp and we can chat about it. And that's the type of deal. I mostly wanted to use this as an example of a project that we're busy with right now to give you the idea of how we go about looking for safety and long-term cash flow so we can get our global financial freedom in terms of income. So if you're interested in that, please let me know and let's get together and or telephone or whatever the case may be. And forward to chatting with you in person. Good night. I'm going to leave the number up there for a couple of minutes on WhatsApp. So that you can get hold of me. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much.